So I think we're ready to go to session 2. So session 2 is about it's about professional networking. So for people who are independent contractors like Lyric and me, and it's got a lot of perks. So we'll tell Lyric. So I'll just let Lyric take the stage to just do a quick intro because you introduced yourself again in your video. So go ahead.
Yeah, hi all. I'm Rivera. You may know me as the Neurodivergent Rebel. I'm not going to go too deep into that because I do intro it in the presentation. But I want to share today a bit about how autistic and neurodivergent people can network differently in a more authentic way. Because when I tried to do it the average, typical, whatever that means way, it was a catastrophic failure and really had bad tolls on my mental health because I didn't know why it was so difficult for me to do it the way everyone else did it. And uh, I go about things a lot differently now that I know myself, and I hope that what I've learned will be helpful to you all as well.
Adam, go ahead. So you have a quick question?
Yeah, very quick.
Okay.
Are we having the breaks in between the sessions, like the 10 or 15-minute pause, or are we just going straight through?
We have a break after session 2. We have a 15-minute break after session 2.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. All right. I'm going to get started. And also welcome Tara and April. They are the people who created the 2 networking toolkits. So they are here. So after Lyric's done, Autism Grown Up will jump in and do a short presentation about the toolkits and how to use it. I'm super excited about them. So I'm going to get started with lyrics. Okay, show sounds.
Hi all, I'm Lyric Rivera. My pronouns are they, them. You may know me as the Neurodivergent Rebel. And it took me almost 30 years of my life to realize that I'm autistic, a significant fact about myself that I was unaware of for many years. In addition to being autistic, I'm also ADHD and neurodivergent in a few other ways that I don't disclose publicly. Because I didn't discover the truth about my brain until I was diagnosed a few months before my 30th birthday, I had already been in the workforce for 18 years at the time of this revelation, because my first job was in the family business, my mother's hair salon, when I was just 11 years old. Learning about my brain, better late than never, allowed me to re-examine all of the moments in my past with fresh eyes, including all of my previous employers, starting with my time working with my mother in our family business. My career has been diverse, roles in fast food, retail, tech, and even corporate environments. My professional journey has taken me through companies of all shapes and sizes, from small teams to global corporations with over 1 million employees. I've waited tables and cars. I've worked in inventory control, provided internal and external customer service. I've had management, operations, and recruiting positions. I've trained other employees. I've educated external clients. I've held roles in marketing, visual merchandising, and even executive level leadership. Before all that, in high school, after leaving my mom's watchful eye, I was a car hop, a roller skating waiter at a popular drive-in restaurant. Most recently, I've worked in business consulting, both as an employee of a consulting firm and on my own as an independent consultant. I'm now 37, and I've had many jobs since my first job when I was just 11, or even my second, and one of my all-time favorite jobs, that roller skating car waiter. My wish is that by sharing my 26-year work journey with you, I can help avoid some of the painful lessons that I had to learn, because I've gone through a lot of trial and error to become who I am today. All right, slide number 2. Pros and cons. One of the lessons I've learned in my work journey is that there are both pros and cons to working for others and for working for yourself. For most of my life, I felt as if I needed the security that comes with having a stable paycheck, more than I needed freedom, especially when I could fit into jobs that were well tailored to my strengths and naturally avoided or accommodated my weaknesses. However, as I grew older and expectations upon me became greater, I started to need more support, freedom, and autonomy to ensure my needs were met. And this kind of freedom is hard to find when working for someone else, unless you're working in a very high-level leadership position or in an organization that is very flexible with people. These types of positions, leadership positions that have more freedom, often come with tons more responsibility, which cancels out some of that freedom. Leadership roles are often not as free as some think they will be. You may be more free to do things your way, but suddenly you're not as free with your time and your energy because job demands and levels of expectations on organizational leaders are usually much higher. When you're a leader working for someone else, you take on a lot of responsibility, just like when you start your own business and decide to start out for yourself. However, at least when you lead your own organization, there is never someone above you, unless it's a client with veto power on a project, who has final say about the work you do. It's also a lot of risk going solo, where you may not have stable income. Some months I don't make enough to break even, but other months you might make enough to sustain yourself for 2 to 3 months. When branching out on your own, you must consider the following. How risk tolerant are you? Will you be okay if you don't get paid for a month or 2? Consider the responsibilities that you have outside of work. Do others depend on you for their survival, for example? Having a support system in place can make this transition to self-employment less daunting and more manageable. My personal journey into self-employment began as a side project while I was still working full-time. Over time, I managed to merge my consulting work into the HR and business consulting firm I was part of at the time, with the help of a supportive team that I was only partially responsible for. The experience taught me the value of a strong support system. It was amazing having people I could lean on who were good at things I struggled with and vice versa. Then something unexpected happened. The global pandemic. And I found myself without full-time employment, on unemployment, without any new prospects on the horizon. I spent 6 months, possibly more, looking for employment and applied to about 70 to 80 jobs without getting a single call back. During that time, with nothing else to do with myself since we were in lockdown, I started rebuilding my own consulting business, Neurodivergent Consulting, back up as an independent entity once again. If I'm honest, I'm not sure I would have had the guts to make this choice had it not been made for me. However, I'm really grateful, looking back on everything, that things happened the way they did. Knowing who I was back then, I would have never agreed to and willingly pursued being self-employed had I understood how financially unstable, ethical self-employment would be for me. Because back then, I didn't realize what having more control and freedom to tailor the environment around me to my needs would mean to me. Because this is a value that is beyond monetary measure, but it's not something I'd experienced, so I had nothing to gauge it against. So after asking yourself that first consideration, will I be okay if I don't make any money for a few months? If you answer no, I would gently suggest taking on something more stable, at least part-time, as you get yourself started, if possible. And that's so you have your basic needs like food and shelter covered. Because it's really hard to be creative and do the things if you don't have those foundational needs at least supported. So I had a safety net thanks to my spouse and the funding projects that were available during the pandemic. I was privileged because I had a cushion when I started my business, and not everyone has this. And I didn't always have this cushion either. That's why I started my business when I had another job to support me and launched it fully years later when I had extra support and nothing else to do and really no choice. So that, the instability and uncertainty, is one of the biggest disadvantages of being self-employed, because obviously we all need food and shelter. Some other disadvantages are organization. You have to start up your own systems for organizing. You might not know where to start with that. When you work for someone else, they set up the standard operating procedures, organize systems to help with effective and efficient workflows, and have possible specialized and essential areas like sales, marketing, operations, and accounting, etc. to help these processes flow more easily. If you don't have effective organizational systems and structures in place, even if you're an organization of one, it can feel like you are all over the place, running in circles and getting nothing done. When you're self-employed, you must either do all of these things for yourself or find someone either internally as a hire or an external contractor to do some of these tasks that aren't in your wheelhouse for you if these skills are beyond your personal means. And this will be an extra expense of either time for you to learn these skills and do them yourself, or money to have someone help you with this. And so that's a really important consideration. When you are self-employed, it is sometimes hard to know where work ends and life begins, and work can start to bleed into your life. This makes it easier for you to burn out if you're not already good at setting boundaries, like when you will work or the types of projects you take on, or if you struggle to say no to clients, work, and projects that are not a good fit for you. Because especially early on, new business owners have a tendency to take on whatever business they can get. Motivation. While I am highly self-motivated, many neurodivergent people thrive when they have others around them to help motivate them. Several ADHDers I've worked with in the past, when I used to take on coaching clients, struggled during lockdown to work on their own from home. Though I, also an ADHDer, thrive in a distraction-free environment of my own home, by myself alone, with nobody to bother me, for some, having that background noise and other people around helped motivate them and give them structure. So if you plan to build a team, this may not be as much of an issue, but it is something to consider if you're going to be a solopreneur. However, suppose you plan to go solo and you worry you may have problems working without other people around. In that case, you may want to consider working with a body double nearby, someone else working on their own project, or checking out co-working spaces as a substitute for the hustle and bustle you would typically find working in a larger company. Knowing your worth is also difficult for some of us. Research what others doing similar work are charging for the job you plan to do, whether it's art, consulting, or something else. Don't undervalue yourself. It really breaks my heart that most of the neurodivergent people I've worked with over the years do not know their worth or how awesome they are. And we have a lot of rejection sensitivity and a tendency to undervalue ourselves because many of us have been undervalued by others our entire lives. Not knowing your worth can and frequently does lead us to not charging what our time is worth because we often don't know how amazing we are, and even I am no exception to this. I charged half to 1/3 of what others were charging for similar work until several of my clients in a row kindly let me know that my prices were way too low. And I was a bit sick to my stomach when I learned how much lower my prices were compared to others in the field who had less experience and did pieces of training that were not presented with the same quality and care that I put into my own work. I still charge less than many of my peers, but I have raised my prices to be closer to what's considered reasonable. It can be hard to brag about or sell oneself if you struggle to know how amazing you are. I still struggle to sell myself, so I like to let my work speak for itself, and then I have nothing to sell, so to speak. And I know Temple Grandin is controversial in some circles. However, I learned this from her, so I want to give credit where credit is due. I also struggle to see my value as a monetary dollar amount, but that's what market research is for. I should have done more research when I started and kept up with it over the years since starting my business. That is definitely one very large regret I have. The advantages are easier to list because they don't require as many disclaimers. I would argue that having control over your workflow, the projects you take on, and your schedule is the biggest advantage for me. Some other advantages are better mental and emotional well-being from having increased autonomy and control. You can pursue only your passions, what you're good at, and hire helpers to do the tasks you're not skilled at or just hate doing. My favorite advantage is my no a-holes policy. Because the toxic organization that caused me to have a mental breakdown, leading me to burning out and being diagnosed autistic at the age of 29, regularly took on very abusive clients because they had large sums of money to spend, I decided that if I ever had a say in it, I would never work with a-holes again, regardless of how much money they have. So if someone's an a-hole, I fire them. Slide 3. Neurodivergent networking. Different, not bad. Traditional networking is tailored towards the strengths of neuro-average people. Unlike traditional networking, which often prioritizes small talk and superficial relationships, autistic and other neurodivergent people usually go deep into things, which can include our relationships. This depth may be too much for some people, but that's okay because nobody is for everyone. Networking is about finding your people who will love and embrace you as you are, without expecting you to change who you are for selfish reasons. Neurodivergent people bring unique strengths to networking, which can lead to meaningful connections and collaborations. Our ability to engage openly and authentically, our deep understanding of complex issues, and our dedication to our work are just a few examples of these strengths. When we are given the space to act authentically and showcase our strengths, we can truly shine in the networking arena. We may also face challenges such as difficulties with small talk, attention differences, executive functioning and information processing differences, sensory differences and overloads, social pressure to tone down or hide one's neurodivergent traits. All of this can make networking experiences stressful and exhausting, but these challenges don't prevent us from networking in our own ways. This is why it is crucial for many of us to think differently about networking. Perhaps the most challenging thing for many autistic and neurodivergent people is putting yourself out there, having a pitch and selling yourself. When I first learned I was autistic and began to unpack what that really meant for me, I had been working really hard to put myself out there the neurotypical way, attending networking events and happy hours and trying to make connections in an environment that needed me to sell myself instead of showcasing my work, allowing what I was capable of to speak for itself. I failed miserably in this environment, and this failure destroyed my self-esteem and confidence, leading me to burning out, getting sick, and eventually, when I was at my worst and almost ready to give up living, finally being diagnosed autistic at the age of 29 and ending the vicious cycle. The neurotypical ways of networking, bragging about self without sounding like you're bragging, eludes me, as it does many neurodivergent people I know, who do better by presenting their body of work and skills, allowing the quality to speak for itself. Don't force yourself to network like a neurotypical if you're not neurotypical. If you struggle with face-to-face communication like I do, take to the internet, join an online group, create a website or a portfolio, and let your body of work speak for itself. Yes, I know it can out there, but if you spend all your time focused on fear and are afraid to try things, you are never going to have that chance at that success. WD-40 is Formula 40 because Formula 39 and every preceding formula didn't work. The first 39 formulas were not failures, they were just stops along the way to the journey to the final formula. Imagine if they hadn't gotten all the way up to Formula WD-40. We wouldn't have it. Imagine if I hadn't decided to do something scary and put myself out there in a different way, after being repeatedly rejected for doing things the typical way. I wouldn't be speaking with you today. How I network as a multiply neurodivergent person differs from how neuroaverage people network. What works for me won't work for every neurodivergent person because we're all very unique. One key to neurodivergent networking is to learn how to lean into your strengths and find ways to connect with others tailored to those strengths and how you communicate and process information. I'm good at writing. That is one of my core skills. So I do a lot of my networking on the internet in spaces where I can write or type. If you communicate best with spoken words, you should focus on spaces that nurture that skill. Now let's talk about community-focused networking. Community-focused networking, which prioritizes building meaningful relationships and mutual support over transactional connections, has been much more effective for me than traditional networking ever was. After years in the corporate world, it was quite a mind shift for me to move from transactional networking to community-centered networking. Community-focused networking involves investing in others without expecting returns other than honesty and kindness, helping to build genuine connections and supporting one another's passions, interests, and projects. This approach to networking celebrates authenticity, acceptance, and mutual understanding, creating a safe and inclusive space for individuals who may have felt marginalized, exploited, or excluded in traditional networking environments. Slide 4, personal branding. Develop a personal brand that authentically represents your values, skills, and strengths. That is crucial in today's professional landscape. It helps you to stand out, build trust, and attract opportunities and communities that align with your passions and expertise. By showcasing your unique strengths and story, you can differentiate yourself and communicate why people should hire you because of who you are, what you bring, and the value you provide. This authentic approach to personal branding fosters a strong reputation and lasting connections. Discover your unique strengths. Reflect on your skills, talents, and experiences to understand what sets you apart. Identify your target audience. Determine who you want to connect with and serve and what problems you can solve for them. Define your mission and craft your personal statement to share with the world. Identify your purpose, values, and passions to create a clear direction for your personal brand, including a concise and authentic summary that captures your mission, strengths, and values, and use it as a foundation for your personal brand. Really important, be authentic. People are tired of fake people and soulless brands. Authenticity and humanity are a great way to stand out in the crowd, especially for those who can't blend in even if they want to. How do you build your reputation and credentials? Building your reputation and credentials involves showcasing your expertise, consistency, and impact across various platforms. For example, certifications and education. You might want to pursue relevant credentials, courses, or training to enhance your credibility. Content creation for social media platforms. Share valuable insights, articles, podcasts, videos, or blog posts demonstrating your expertise. Start with 2 to 3 platforms where your target audience is most active. LinkedIn for professionals, Threads and Substack for thought leaders, TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram for creatives. Focus on quality over quantity. Master each platform before expanding to others. Remember, your online presence should complement your offline reputation and your credentials. Guest appearances are a great way you can engage in blogging, podcasts, speaking, or interviews to expand your reach, or have guests on your own podcast. Word of mouth. Leverage testimonials, case studies, and referrals from satisfied clients, colleagues, or mentors. Consistency is vital. Regularly update your content and engage with your audience to build trust and recognition. Are there other methods to get your business out there? As a neurodivergent professional, you may face unique challenges in self-promotion, especially if you struggle with social interactions or spoken communication. Here are some alternative methods to consider when promoting your business. Potential customers or clients want to see or hear you talk about your area of expertise. So find ways that you can show off your stuff. Written content, such as blog posts, articles, or email newsletters, can showcase your expertise and personality. If writing isn't your thing, you can use visual content, utilize graphics, videos, or photography to convey your message and showcase your products or services. Case studies and testimonials. Share details and examples of your work and success to demonstrate your capabilities and encourage satisfied clients to share their experiences working with you. Virtual events. You can host webinars, workshops, and online conferences to share your expertise and connect with potential clients. Partner with complementary businesses. Collaborate on projects and referrals to expand your reach. Online directories and email marketing. To increase visibility, list your business in relevant directories or databases, and build an email list and create newsletters to share updates or your work with potential clients. Additionally, consider working with a business coach, mentor, or marketing professional who understands neurodivergent needs and can help you develop a personalized marketing strategy. Should we disclose our neurodivergence as part of our branding? When is it best to do this? Does it help or hurt us? Disclosing your neurodivergence as part of your brand can be a powerful way to connect with like-minded individuals, showcase your unique strengths, and promote acceptance and inclusion. However, it is essential to consider the timing and audience, as sharing this information too early or in the wrong context may lead to stigma and bias. Disclosing neurodivergence can help build trust and credibility with your target audience. Still, doing so strategically and authentically is crucial, highlighting how your neurodivergence informs your work and values. It can also depend on your field and the type of work you're doing. For my work, teaching about neuroinclusion, it makes sense to lead with this information. However, there are many fields where neurodivergence is less understood, and disclosures may not be helpful. For me, I would rather weed out the people who have a problem with my neurodivergence as part of my no a-holes policy I mentioned earlier. If you choose to disclose, here are some tips. Be authentic. Share your neurodivergence naturally and genuinely, highlighting how it shapes your strengths and your approach. Choose the right platform. Consider sharing your neurodivergence on your website, social media, or blog, where you can control the narrative and audience. Be prepared for people's reactions. Anticipate a range of responses and address questions, comments, and concerns confidently and professionally. Remember, disclosures are a personal choice, and it's essential to prioritize your comfort and well-being first. As I mentioned at the beginning, I do not share all of how I am neurodivergent with everyone. I share on my own terms, and there are parts of myself I'm not ready to share with the world. Slide 5. Building authentic connections. I don't recommend hiding your true self unless you feel unsafe. However, you may need to adapt and flex your communication styles to connect with diverse clients, colleagues, and audiences. This isn't about masking your identity, but rather being versatile in your interactions and accommodating others with various communication needs by meeting them in the middle ground. You can build trust and foster strong relationships by being authentic while maintaining your energy and well-being. Remember, authenticity is not about revealing every aspect of yourself, but about being genuine and authentic to your values and passions. Some tips include but are not limited to joining niche communities based on your particular interest, passions, or business area. Participating in online forums, social media groups, or conferences specific to your industry, interests, where you can engage with others who share your passions and values can be very helpful. Volunteering or collaborating, where you work on projects for causes that align with your values, can allow you to meet like-minded people while making meaningful connections and impact. Leverage social media by using hashtags, forums, or LinkedIn groups to connect with professionals who share your interests and engaging in meaningful conversations, growing genuine connections and relationships. It is also helpful to show genuine interest in people and their projects. Ask open-ended questions, listen actively, and demonstrate a genuine desire to understand the other person's work, challenges, and goals. Be a helper. Offer helpful insights, resources, or connections that support the other person's success, establishing a foundation of mutual support and trust. Remember, meaningful professional relationships are built on authenticity, reciprocity, and consistent effort to support one another's growth and success. Slide 6. You decide what success looks like. How do you define a business as a successful one? What is good enough for you? A successful business aligns with your values, meets your financial needs, and most importantly, creates a profound sense of purpose and personal fulfillment. Being successful means setting realistic goals and celebrating incremental wins rather than striving for perfection or comparing yourself to others. Success can be measured by your positive impact, relationships, and the freedom and autonomy you create for yourself and others. Ultimately, a successful business sustains and nourishes you rather than draining your energy and resources. You can create a thriving business by defining success on your own terms. All right, everyone, thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
All right, that is Lyric's presentation. Does anybody have some questions for Lyric? You can unmute yourself before we move on to Autism Grown Up and the toolkits. Lyric, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
How did you come up with Neurodivergent Rebel? I love your brand name so much.
Thank you. It took me a while to find it, and it was like one of those things I was like, I think when the right thing comes to me, I'll know what it is. And with that one, my whole life before I knew I was neurodivergent or even knew what neurodiversity was, or I didn't know I was autistic, didn't know I was ADHD, any of that until I was 29. And I didn't have the right words to describe how I was different. So I just thought I was a failed version of everyone else. And names like stubborn, difficult, sensitive, lazy, and rebellious, especially rebellious. I was called a rebel a lot, and it wasn't supposed to be a positive thing that I was a rebel. But it was one of the most common things I was called. And, for me, I'm also, non-binary, I'm a queer person. And being someone that has known they are in the queer community since I was 11 or 12 years old, uh, just reclaiming things that are used against you is like always been like a very powerful thing. So like I'm called a weirdo a lot now. I'm a proud weirdo. I'm not even ashamed of it anymore. And like the rebel thing was me reclaiming like that thing that was supposed to be a bad thing, but really it was just I was fighting really to get my needs met that people around me were um, denying I even had and just telling me they thought they knew what was better for me than I did. So that's kind of where it was, is claiming that back. And then once I had like an understanding of yes, like validated that people had been, misinterpreting me and I'd been misinterpreting myself, I was like, well, I'm going to have to be rebellious and stubborn and actually fight back if I want to get my needs met now.
Yeah. It really suits you. I mean, but your handle name, it's been, how long have you been on social media platform?
I think it was 8 years this fall.
8 years. But
So
that
we're
word,
coming up
yeah,
on 8 years. It's somewhere
yeah,
around this fall. Yeah.
yeah. But anyways, you used the word neurodivergent as part of your branding before, like anyone else, like even knew or heard the word
Well,
neurodivergent.
the word was, I mean, the word's been around since before then, but it wasn't super trendy
Yeah.
yet, I don't think.
Yeah.
And that was the thing. It was like, I was processing this autism diagnosis, and I had a lot of feelings about the fact that when I Googled autism originally, like I could have found out I was autistic earlier, but the first time it kind of came up, and it was like the question, maybe I'm autistic. I went and
Yeah.
Googled autism and then read them, and I was like, wait, no, because it was all just gloom and doom medical, things. I just didn't
Yeah.
feel that way about myself. Uh, and then I found out about neurodiversity because of some books that were recommended to me by the psychologist who
Yeah.
diagnosed me. And I'm really glad I was steered in that more nuanced, balanced, like it's not all good, it's not all bad, we're human,
Yeah.
so we have strengths and weaknesses. And that was what took the blame and shame off of me, that I was a defective, broken person. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, there's just, I get diversity. That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Brain diversity, that makes sense to me too, because I'm a nature nerd. So it's like, okay, I get it. Uh, and that was just a pivotal moment for me, to
Yeah.
have something outside of that. And then now that I know I'm not just autistic, there's a lot
Right.
of different ways my brain is different. And so I'm glad I didn't just pick like autism only, for the label, even though a lot of that's what I was talking about the first few years. But there's, most of us are more than just one neurotype.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but I think you were one of few autistic advocates that I followed and learned from before I got diagnosed. So I think your brand, I think, has a lot of influence in just in our community, the autism and autistic community. And I love how your messaging is always clear. Like you're
I
just
try.
you just like you see other people like just the messaging can vary, but I love how your style, your messaging has always been very clear, and that's hard to do actually. So that's a compliment, but that's hard
Thank
to do.
you.
It's
And
yeah.
it's very intentional, because that's
Yeah.
something else I saw. And once I was aware of like how diverse our brains were, and started to understand that I'm hyperlexic and
Yeah.
my reading comprehension is like far
Yeah.
beyond a lot of people. And I started realizing that they're, like my own partner's dyslexic. So we're very different. Like the reading comprehension, too many words, like it's too many
Yeah.
pictures in his head. And like, it's like,
Yeah.
can't process it. And so
Yeah.
like, I noticed a lot of people weren't able to
Yeah.
access the way information is put out there because it was just too much. It was just, word salad, which is hard to
Mhm.
streamline. And I
Yeah.
was just like, I want to make this so simple that you can just easily see it and digest it. Like, even if you don't have, ridiculous reading comprehension and an advanced vocabulary, like, we shouldn't need to have an advanced vocabulary to understand human nature.
Yes, that's true. So we actually have an international attendees. So I want to welcome our friends from
Hold on.
Italy
Hold
and
up.
yes, Ryan. Yeah,
I have one last a quick question for Lyric.
sure.
Hi, yes.
Um, I own a baking business myself. Oh, how should I post my influence on Facebook uh, when my business is slow?
Yeah. So I would definitely say like Facebook is starting to really like two formats. Facebook is trying to push us all to do reels. I'm trying to do it because that's what I need to do, and I haven't been doing enough of them. And then Facebook also really likes little memes and little pictures. And the other thing about Facebook is anything that feels like an advert, it kind of downranks, but it likes when you tell like stories. So like anything that's like if it's a video kind of saying the story about the day, like maybe you're opening up and you're getting the baking going and you're showing like the love that goes into baking the baked goods, or you might have a little picture of yourself. And it also likes to see our faces more than it likes to see our products, which is really annoying. So you with your product makes it more likely it's going to go somewhere and talk about your love for baking and like how much you put into the things, and make it more human and more about like you versus just some brand like that. We want to connect with people. We're tired of brands. Like we're tired of like these big corporations that just step on and exploit the little guy. So it's like really showing that human aspect of it. um is how you're going to have the most reach on Facebook. And then like if you have like links and things you want to share on Facebook, especially if you like say, hey, link in the comments, more info in comments, and drop that link in the comment, it's less likely that algorithm's going to go, oh, this is an ad, and not share it with anybody, because Facebook wants us to pay for ads. And I'm sorry, as a small business owner, I don't want to give Meta my money. I don't have any money to give them. So you got to trick the Meta algorithm into like not hiding your content because it wants to put you behind a paywall.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
So
That's a good question.
Yeah, so actually I have another question for you, Lyric, but I don't know if we have to move on to Autism Grown Up and the toolkits after this. But if you're staying after, like, I don't know, session 3, I have a question about how to read the numbers, because I can't read numbers. Like, how do you know how to make that adjustment when you're reading the metrics of your posts? So that was my question, but maybe we could come back to it later.
Yeah, we can go into that a little bit later. Yeah.
Okay. So April, you are in here. April works. Oh, hi, April. So April is here, and you are the one who created this fabulous workplace and employment, autistic workplace and employment toolkit, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
me and
Thank
Tara together.
you. Thank you so
Mhm.
much. So I just want everybody to see you. So when they type their questions, then they know that it's you answering. I just want to
Yep,
put
this
your
is who you're
face.
talking to.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so I'm going to screen share and play the video that Dr. Tara Regan has prepared. There we go.
Hello, I'm Dr. Tara Regan from Autism Grown Up, and I'm going to be sharing these networking toolkits with y'all. Just kind of doing a walkthrough through these 2 PDFs that we've created with Maisie from Autism Career Pathways, and give you all a page-by-page preview of what's inside these jam-packed toolkits. So I'll be walking through them in the video, and then our major writer and researcher, April Kirby, will be in the chat. Happy to answer your questions along the way. All right, let me try to get to the next slide. There we go. So how to use this toolkit. We give this information at the beginning of every one of our toolkits, just as a way to describe how you can use it. It can be used as a workbook. There are a lot of topics, a variety of areas to cover, and we've included fillable sections for you. You'll see these gray boxes along the way, more so in the questionnaire checklist sections. And then there's also a notes page at the end of the toolkit where you can add your thoughts after you download the toolkit. It's all yours to keep and hold on to. So this toolkit is actually part of a larger collection of toolkits that we've created. All of these are free and available on our website, autismgrownup.com, and you'll see these toolkits housed there as well. If you ever want to refer back to it, Maisie, I think, mentioned she wants to put them on the Autism Career Pathways website too, so that's exciting. And we cover a variety of areas related to autism and the lifespan. We target and specifically focus on autistic adults. We want to make sure these resources are free for autistic adults who need them. And then there's some sections there for other members of your support network, like caregivers and professionals. We even have a toolkit for allies in the workplace. So I do want to give y'all a bit of a disclaimer. We put this at the beginning of our toolkits. Just by the nature of how big these topic areas are, we cover a lot of different things. This table of contents here kind of gives you an idea of what's in the small business networking toolkit, but everyone is in a different place, and we never want to assume that everyone is in the same spot. So you can pick and choose where you want to go from with navigating the toolkit. You don't have to use everything in the toolkit. Just find what is a good match for you, and these are helpful ideas. based on common needs from autistic adults, and they may or may not be applicable to you and your needs, but it can be good to check in if you want to see if that is a stage you are in or want to learn more from, and then go from there. So let's get into the Small Business Networking Toolkit. So I'm going to be going a little bit page by page, not exactly, because there are a lot of pages to both toolkits, but we like to start out every toolkit with common definitions, research, linking to the law, specifically the Americans with Disabilities Act, the ADA, around accommodations, and other important things related to work in the workplace. And then we identify common needs. So we've heard a lot of needs. So Maisie helped us write this too, and she shared her experience and expertise in this area. And this has helped us outline what the toolkit will look like. These are common needs from different small business owners who are autistic and things that they wish they had more information on. And there are multiple types of small business networking. It's such a broad lens when you think about it. There are so many different things that you do under that networking umbrella. So some of these may be areas you want to work on now or learn more about now. Others are just things maybe later on or may not even be applicable to you at any point in the future. Like you may not be interested in hiring employees, and that's totally fine. And so we also talk about disclosure a bit more in the workplace networking toolkit because just the nature of being in an existing workplace. But disclosure is also important to hear around being your own small business owner, whether you are starting your own business with materials and goods you're making, or you are selling services and working with other people. There's lots of different areas for potential disclosure, and all of those are still up to you. They look a bit different, of course, versus the workplace networking one, which seems a little bit more structured, just given the workplace as it is versus the flexibility of being a small business owner or being self-employed. But so we try to make these a little bit more structured and give you an idea of areas where you may need to disclose or may not want to disclose. And then establishing boundaries. So this is really important with networking. It's such an abstract thing where you are working with so many different people across a variety of areas. Contracts, getting paid, the time you're investing into the work you're doing, and communication. There's lots of different areas to think about your boundaries with, and you don't have to have all the answers now or all the time, but these are just good considerations for you to come back to or to think about now as maybe some potential priorities for yourself. And then we've broken down a few different things between independent contractors and consultants versus small business owners in terms of different challenges that may come up along the way related to networking. And then we wrap up the toolkit with some next steps. We like to add a little questionnaire to our toolkits and provide some example answers. This has been a newer thing we've been doing lately, just to give a little bit more guidance to what your answers could look like, because some of these questions are very broad, like asking about long-term goals with a small business, like what does that even look like for someone? So these may not necessarily be applicable to you again, but they kind of give you an idea of what someone else may be thinking about, and that could give you some ideas too. This is a brainstorming page and to help you identify your next steps. And again, we broke that down between small business owners and independent contractors. So now let's move on to the professional networking toolkit. So you will see some similarities in terms of structure between these two toolkits because we wanted to make sure they were covering similar needs and areas. There are a lot of common needs in terms of being in the workplace from autistic adults. We are starting to see more of an established research base, and a lot of autistic adults feeling a little bit more comfortable sharing what their experiences have been like in the workplace across a wide variety of areas, including networking. We're starting to see more information on networking. And specifically around references and guidance, career guidance, and seeking out accommodations related to networking. And then now, as just like with small business networking, workplace networking has a lot of types as well. This area says workplace support network here that I'm covering. But yeah, there's a lot of different types of workplace networking. And again, some of them may be of interest to you right now, maybe later, or maybe not at all. We see a lot of people, or a lot of the research has focused on mentoring and communications in terms of networking related to that. And then disclosure. This is a big one, and we take it very seriously in terms of getting the information that you may want to know, that is important to you. We want to give you as much information you want and need to help you make the decision around disclosure or how you want to go through that process, because it's all up to you, of course. And everyone has a wide range of experiences related to disclosure, even across workplaces. And then self-advocacy and networking. Self-advocacy is such a big framework across all of these toolkits, just in terms even of how we think about putting them together. We want you to be able to make your own decisions and feel autonomous in terms of, all right, I got these particular goals that I want to work on, so I'm going to use this information and carve my own pathway here. But we give you some structure as if you would like that. So self-advocacy looks like a lot of different things in networking. Again, boundaries, but also developing that awareness of needs and goals, and then accommodations. I'm again covering a section here. Matching your needs and goals to accommodations are really important too, related to self-advocacy. And then we have a section around scripts. So again, you can see these fillable boxes here where you can create your own scripts or strategies around your self-advocacy if this is an area that you really want to work on. So that section before that, I showed you all the categories, that we matched them here to give you some examples of what those could look like, because those are pretty broad and abstract in terms of what they could even look like. So we give you a bunch of examples, and then you can write your own script or strategy if you would like that for yourself. Then as we wrap up the toolkit, we wanted to give you a section on establishing and maintaining boundaries specifically, and what that can look like, and that it's okay that it could look like that for you or may not, and just see how that would map out for a particular person. And then we wrap up the toolkit with a personal questionnaire and checklists that you can fill out based on your own needs and interests for your workplace networking, whether that is you have some immediate needs right now that you really want to focus on related to networking, to thinking a little bit further on in the future, to more medium-term goals, to even longer-term annual or years down the pipeline kind of goals, as well as some strategies you may want to employ and reflect on and examine if you've already tried some. And then you can always return to this toolkit over time as you do more networking in the workplace and see, all right, so I already did this section, how did this feel to do this strategy, and then pick out your next steps from there. So that was both of the toolkits, just a brief walkthrough of both of them. The small business networking toolkit, and then the professional networking toolkit in the workplace. So these can kind of give you areas that you can return to over time. Networking is an ongoing process with lots of things changing over time, because the people we work with, or vendors or clients we work with, change over time too. they may be the same people, but the opportunities may change, or our boundaries may change, or our needs self-advocacy wise may change. And having this information related to what we shared in the networking toolkits can be very helpful for you as you navigate these big questions. That's what happens a lot, right? Especially related to networking, that can be very contextual and nuanced and very subjective, a lot like other social skill areas. And navigating social norms in the workplace as well as a small business owner are very tricky. And for you as an autistic business owner or employee, you should be able to have options that help meet your needs in the workplace. So, yeah, if you have any information or questions or feedback you would like to see added to these toolkits, we would love to hear it. We've put our email address all over the toolkits, beginning to end, because that's one of the ways we do get information as we update toolkits. We like to update them every year or as often as we can, because there's lots of new research coming out, lots of information that people are sharing online about their experiences. We like to include that. We're developing more of a video library related to videos people have posted about their experiences in a wide range of areas. And this is perhaps one of those areas that could be one of them. We did not have videos in these toolkits necessarily, but that could be awesome to have as just like an example. But yeah, thank you all for coming to this particular session. I hope that you all get a lot out of these toolkits, and I look forward to hearing from you if that's something you're interested in. And thank you.
All right, everyone. So I was thinking these toolkits can be translated into different languages. That would be great. So thank you so much, April, for making them. They are incredible.
You're welcome. I'm so glad that people are enjoying them and they can be helpful.
And they are free. So make sure you find Grown Up's website. And they're also on Instagram and LinkedIn, and download all the other resources that you created them for the platform, for the community. Does anybody have any quick questions for April or Lyric before we let them go? And then we're going to take a 15-minute break. Yes. Yes. So William is asking if you guys will be getting the toolkits. Yes, we will send the 2 toolkits with the email of the recordings and the slide decks from Lyric and me as well. So you'll get it all in one email. Any other questions for Lyric and April?
There we go. Sorry, I forgot to turn my mic on. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, Adam, go ahead.
I had a question earlier related to, bandwidth. Is there anything, I'm just coming off of a long-term burnout in the corporate world and sort of rebounding and trying to do the balancing act better this time. Are there any practical guides or ways of thinking about demand and resources and balancing those 2 worlds, including in those resources, or anything that anybody knows of?
That's a perfect question for Lyric.
It really is. Like, burnout's what led me to finding out I was autistic. So yeah, I know burnout very intimately. And, for me, something that has been really crucial for me since really learning about my brain is evaluating very carefully things like what kinds of tasks energize me, what kinds of tasks drain me.
Yep.
And then also, like, for me, I have a really hard time, like, if I do a bunch of calls all day and then I try to go do writing and be creative, I'm not going to be able to switch my mind into that kind of creative person. That doesn't come out after I've been talking to people all day. But if I'm quiet all morning writing by myself, I can go do calls in the afternoon and be okay. So, like, I know my brain and what kinds of tasks leave me in what kind of a mental state, and I'm really careful to, like, hack how I stack things. I also know, like, for me, even though it should be simple, checking my emails it feels like a big demand. It's really stressful. I don't want to check my emails. So, but if I say, oh, I only have to check emails for 15 minutes a day, if I don't get to everything in that 15 minutes, I just do like the most important emails first, and then whatever else I have time for afterwards, I'll get to. I can mentally handle it being only 15 minutes every single day and, spacing it out
Right.
that way. But if I'm like, oh, I'm going to check emails for an hour on Monday morning, I am going to like really dread it and not want to do it. Like, cause it's just like, oh, a
Right.
whole hour of something that's
The
stressful to me.
delay and
Yeah.
right.
So I try to be like mindful of like stacking those tasks that feel like nails on a chalkboard for me
Okay,
with
sort of like right,
other
making sure that
things.
there's a time for that, and it
Yeah.
truly
Or I'll
okay.
put like a podcast on in the background to give my brain something happy to deal with the
Yeah,
emails that are like sucking the happy out of me. Like, so like,
truly.
really just be attention to like your energy levels, what drains you, and when you're at your best and what kind of environments you're at your best, and realize that rest is productive. Like, think about
Yes.
how creative and how unproductive you are when you don't feel well. Like, I can't be creative when I'm frazzled and burnt out, and I'm not productive when I'm burnt out. We recharge our phones, we recharge our laptops, and we treat our human bodies worse than we treat machines. It
Yes.
doesn't make sense.
I would say like for me that makes me think of two things just like to get out. The first is this Oliver Berkman book, Meditations for Mortals, is really fantastic of unlearning kind of what I like to call the productivity disease.
Oh yeah.
But he talks about historically even 3 to 4 hours of like sort of high mental load work is what most humans are built for. And he talks about sort of ring fencing that time and then letting kind of everything else just kind of fall where it may. And so it made me think of that, sort of grappling with that. And for me, when I embrace that mindset, then I can flip the switch of I've done the thing and it's not just hanging over me, the
Mm-hmm.
whole time, which is such a drain. Um, but
Yeah.
the other thing that I've found really useful is to think of it like a power grid or like, capacity, right? And the thing that I think you're communicating is identify the tasks that are more weighty or that take more resources, right? So those interpersonal tasks, that's going to be a heftier kind of lift versus like a couple of things you don't mind. Or like the email that you hate doing, boom, that's a big hit. Let's make a specific time and, grit our teeth a little bit.
And give yourself permission to struggle with things other people take for granted as easy. That's the
Yes.
other thing.
Give yourself grace. Love yourself. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Like that. And that's the work I'm on right now, truly. Thank you.
Yep. I see Aisha has a hand up.
Greetings, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Perfection.
Yeah, I'm challenged with my voice this morning. Well, afternoon now, but first, like I'm really grateful to be here. Thank you so much, Maisie, for inviting me. It's been a beautiful space, and to feel everyone's essence, even if your camera's off and you have the picture, that I'm able to see you and feel you, and just knowing that everyone is here, in camaraderie, and it's beautiful. So I'm grateful to be here. Um, Lyric, but well, before I say this, I'm going to address Lyric, but it doesn't take away from my appreciate love for everybody else who has spoken. So I just want to, that's my disclaimer, everyone. But Lyric, I really resonated with a lot of what you shared, your story, and even your just your perspective of humanity and honoring your own humanity. Um, I if you and I were to talk, I feel like we would both go, me too, oh me too, oh my God, you too, yes, I did too, and then so I just really appreciate that, and I love to hear the freedom that comes with your awareness, and the the self advocacy, because the reality of it is this world is not going to accommodate us. I'm not trying to be cynical, but it just wasn't created for us. And we all know that. These
Yeah.
are one of our main like pain points that we're all lamenting about. And so I think that there is a space and a need to bring awareness to our realities, but then there's absolutely a need for us to harness the pain and alchemize the
Mhm.
pain and use that energy to transmute it into action that advocates for ourselves and creates the spaces for ourselves and creates a life that is in harmony with our neurology. So as you're saying, I did all of the corporate world and I had a mental breakdown. Well, yes, yep, absolutely. And so now what am I going to do? Right. So after we, self heal and do that work, and I think that's a continual, beautiful work, we learn how to create the space for ourselves so that we don't have the mental breakdowns, or at least not as much, at least not as many. Maybe once a year versus once a month. But I'm just saying, I love that we can tap into our innate creatress and creatorship. I'm making up words and create the life that truly harmonizes with us and the life that we deserve. And when I hear you talk, that's what I hear from you. And so I'm very, very encouraged to hear it and see it. And it's a reminder and a mirror for me to continue to live in my authenticity and my audacity to be who I am. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. I'm gonna send you a little note too. I'm gonna PM you, Aisha.
Cool, cool, cool. And just for clarity, it's pronounced Aisha.
Aisha.
Oh, my
Aisha.
apologies, Aisha.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes, yes.
I have a friend that has it spelled and said differently, or spelled the same way,
Yeah,
said differently. So I appreciate you correcting me. Thank you.
no problem. Thank you.
All right, so we are going to have to take a break because we've been sitting here for 2 hours. So how about we come back like 10:50 Pacific, so about 10 minutes,